Hello there, YouTube. Wow, I'm over on YouTube. For those who are not used to me popping up here on a live, this is actually the first time first time I think. So I'm literally just going to let I'm really nervous actually because I've been in such a safe zone over on Crackbook, and usually I do my lives over on Crackbook, which is Facebook, and then Amber uploads them to my YouTube. However, I need to set up the pace, so just 2 seconds while I just let Amber know over on Crackbook. Just bear with me a minute. For those that don't know, I'm diagnosed with Asperger's, so my multitasking and things is let me just post it. I can't type on this thing because I'm not in. So for those that don't know, I'm having to improvise. I'm having to work with what I've got, with where I am, with the technology that I have, as busted and as crap as it is. So I really can't work very well with the. Let me just turn this off. It makes me want to dance. Does it turn it off? It's not going to turn off, is it? So anyway, as you all know, I don't class myself as a professional. I don't come here and go, hi, my name is Kelly Cotton, blah, 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 blah. I use social media. So basically, the first time I sort of came into social media was when it was MySpace and MSN. And I was at university and I had two boys and I was at college at the time actually. And it was the college students that introduced me to it. So I could still be involved in some of the lecture meetings and they could just sort of message me over stuff because I was a mum at home at university. And then obviously I got very heavily involved in Rock FM in Preston, and then the Radio 1 Big Weekend and Fringe. And I sort of then came onto MySpace. Now, I'm stuck in the middle of my room at the moment because it's the only place I can get signal. My laptop is coming up with a 402 forbidden entry into every route for me to get online at the moment. I don't know what that means. I'm not technology minded. For those that don't know me, my degree is in psychology, and on my very first day of psychology lecture, the lecturer stood up and said that those who were sexually abused would go on to sexually abuse. I disagreed. I put my head above a parapet there and then in the middle of the room and said that that is incorrect. He asked me to give evidence to that. And I said, well, I was sexually abused and I would have for one ever even imagine or even think of reenacting what has happened to me with my children. And I couldn't imagine how I would deal with a situation if anybody ever. In fact, it actually makes me even more safeguarding to my children and overprotective, in fact. So anyway, nothing was said, and he actually sort of said that I was wrong, and basically that the hypothesis says that those that are abused go on to abuse. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I just sort of sat there. And then a couple of years later, as I was coming into my end of second year, I got called into university about a student, and it was actually the student who contacted me, and she said she'd spoken to a couple of people and she was advised to come and talk to me because of the fact of what I had said when I was in this lecture. It turned out that she was being sexually abused and she had tried to take her life. And I managed, I don't know how I sort of got involved, but luckily at the time I had had my counselling done at a place called the Safe Centre in Preston at the hospital. And I knew the people there to sort of ring and contact and sort of say, look, I've sort of got myself in this situation and what do I do? So luckily, we were able to sort of put some form of help around her, but unfortunately she did actually then try to take her life again and ended up in hospital, and I didn't hear from her for a while. And then I heard from her again because she'd fallen behind and everything, and I managed to negotiate her getting sort of time to sort of reschedule and redo her paperwork so she didn't sort of lose out for university. She did really well, but then I started getting calls from the university saying, we've got one of yours. And that basically meant that there was a student that had come to the mentor program. So basically at the university. So I went to university and did criminology, psychology. No, so basically, let me just go back for those that don't understand my CV and what a CV is and why I think the way that I do, why I particularly do what I do. So basically, I was expelled from school. And I was expelled from school because social services failed to do a multi-agency meeting on a emotionally unavailable girl, according to the psychologists, and parents not emotionally available to her and in desperate need of an intervention. And I was apparently just having a tear down my eye. As you know, I was undiagnosed with EDS. I had dealt with sexual abuse trauma. I'd also dealt with a gang rape. And I also dealt with the fact that I just didn't have sexual boundaries from sort of the age of 11 to getting into a relationship with Lee, who was Jessica's dad, when I was 15. And it was at that age that, you know, I had somebody next to me that made sure that nobody came near me. And he was very quiet. And he didn't say anything. He wasn't one of these rah. He just was quiet and he listened. He listened to everything. We watched films together. He was older. He was in the final year of school and I was in the second down, and he just listened and he was just there. And I think people just knew, and nobody ever bothered me. Nobody ever gave me hassle, and I was never really on my own. So, but I had always been asking my parents and school about how to protect myself. I grew up with my dad, and my dad raised me with my ex-stepmom, Roisin, from the age of about 3.5 to about 11. And my dad raised me on martial arts, on Bruce Lee. My dad also ran the village school martial arts clubs, and we all had to have licenses and gradings. And the philosophy that I grew up with was the martial arts and training that we did was for training and training only. And it was in the room. I've got 2 little babies. For those that don't know, we're not quite babies. They're 4 and 2. We've been out today. We've had a fantastic day. It's been amazing. We'll probably rest a lot in the morning. It's been a really long day. So basically, the philosophy was, if anybody ever attacked me, or the philosophy to all, if anyone ever attacked us outside of the dojo, basically, the karate room, we would have to warn them that we were trained in the arts and ask them to step back. And we sort of had a way of doing this. I'm just noticing that Elijah's just a little bit too hot. He's got a blanket on him. It's a bit noisy outside. So the philosophy was to basically warn them 3 times. And if it was a situation that you were in that was going to put you at risk, then you would assume that they were there to kill you. So, and the law states that you can defend until reasonable force. Now, my mum had a very different attitude, and I got highly bullied at school, especially in my sort of final year after changing so many high schools. And I was teased a lot, and it came from all angles. So my mum's philosophy was, if anyone hit me, I was to hit them back. My stepdad, Trevor, which was my mum's 3rd husband, but sort of 4th serious person, man, he was one of these people that said you had to turn the other cheek. For those that don't know, I have vocal cord dysfunction, so bear with me. And then my nan used to say that if anybody ever physically harmed you, you used to have to stand there, especially if it's at school, stand there, take it, And then when that person was on their own, you would then sort of say, look, you know, give us apology. And if they didn't, then basically leave them in a ditch and say nothing. Now, I got in a situation when I was at school where I had a couple of girls that basically, it was when everyone used to wear the sovereign rings. Remember at school when everyone had sovereign rings? And basically, they'd all come at me with sovereign rings, and I had to make a decision at that particular time. Now, previously to this, we'd been on a netball court, and one of the girls had attacked me, and it had ended up with me being in the withdrawal room and her going off to the first aid room. And I felt that this wasn't a good situation to be in. So I decided to go with my Nan's theory on this particular occasion. Now, the reason that I want to talk about this and the reason that I've started to come over onto my YouTube, and I'm sitting very dark at the moment because it's a very dark place for many people. The red X on my hat, for those that don't know, stands for, sorry, if you want to be politically pedantic, it stands for the End It movement. This movement here is a collaboration of lots of different people who all have different charities, different organizations, different abolitions, different projects that are involved in human trafficking, in modern day slavery. Here in the UK, we actually have a bill called the Modern Slavery Bill, Modern Slavery Bill. Today has been lovely. The boys and I have literally just sort of chilled out this morning, and we decided to go out at about 4 o'clock. And then all of a sudden, Shiloh was just I had to get him out. He was just ratty. He was just not compliant. He just not happy. So I thought, right, let's get out. So we went out at 3, and for some strange reason, I decided to go a way that I just never go. I felt appalled because of this situation going on this week that I'm feeling very, 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 very pressured by. For those that are here that do follow my crack book, and I talk more on my crack book because I have a community around me. So this is me putting my head on a completely different parapet, live, opening myself up to so much trolling, so much bitching, so much conniving, and also a lot of conspiracy. I have draconian gagging orders on me from the Royal Courts of Justice here in the UK to not tell you that District Judge Andrew Shaw, PC Stephen Lewis, and social worker Cheryl Osborne played a part in the kidnapped and abduction of Aaron and Faith, my 2 children, through Flintshire County Council, taking them in a Volvo with a social worker. What's her name? What's her name? Name's just gone completely blank. I'll remember in a minute. From Wrexham Hospital, Milers. We're an Earl Down Loss Syndrome family. I have an indicative budget. Basically, that means that I have a chronic condition that means that I have support that enables me to function and thrive in university work and as a mother. Now, we have a bit of a problem here in the UK, and my day out today is quite important because Elijah saved Alan's life today. For those that don't know, Alan's one of our guys who lives on the streets here. He wears massive big army fisherman stuff. He's got his trike and he rides around and he does his fishing. Elijah intervened on a situation today that actually saved Alan's life today. And if it hadn't been for Elijah, even I wasn't going to go back. I decided to go down Albert Street. And the reason I decided to go down Albert Street is somebody's mentioned a private rental place here that takes people with universal credits. And I've got this situation with Josie this week where she's going to be told that Portsmouth City Council are going to be driving into the courts. So she's going to stand in the courts. So take it back to the film, The Never Ending Story. And his name's just gone from me, but the lad in the movie, The Never Ending Story, he has to go through 2 oracles. And the only way he gets to go through those two oracles is by facing his fears and being able to walk through in true faith. It's like a dog. If you show any form of fear, yeah, a dog sniffs fear. If you go through the oracle, it would basically just obliterate you. So you had to be able to go through without showing any fear and knowing that you were going to be facing your death. Every person in the world right now, apart from if you're up in the Amazon Zulu places with no TV, no media, nobody telling you that this COVID is going on. Now, if this COVID is going on, then you will find places like that just completely wiped out with people dead, unexplainable, villages, tribes taken out. If that's happening, then okay, there is some virus spreading around the world. If that's not happening and they're completely oblivious, and the only thing that is changing the way we're doing things is the fact that because the media and the politicians, well, the lefts are telling us to do this. Mind control, fear. Now, as I was going out today, I ended up in the lift with one of the carers in here afterwards. She said, "You're just told to go home here." So she's been tested twice, and on 2 occasions, obviously not got it. If you do, you're just told to get tested. Karen Aden, that was it. The silver Volvo driven by social worker named Karen Aden, who took 2 of my children off to a fat cunt who abused my children with his wife and little fucking Lenny. And one day, my children will be old enough for me to do at least maybe a year in prison. Another story, another time. At this particular point, I want to be able to go into the courts. I want to be able to get justice, not revenge, justice. As we went down Albert Street, I decided to cross over the road, and I wouldn't usually do this, but a couple of the shops were open. And all of a sudden, Elijah had said that Alan was asleep in the road. And I sort of looked back and I sort of thought, I really can't be asked with Alan right now. I just want to go to the boys out, do what I want to do. And because it was going to be a long walk because they wanted to go to the beach. So Elijah decided, no, we had to go back for Alan. So I turned the buggy around and I saw Alan's truck bike. I couldn't see Alan. And I thought, I really can't be asked with this. And I went to turn the buggy around and Elijah was insistent. I had to go to get Alan. So anyway, I then see Alan, but he's not asleep on where he would usually be, sort of sitting in the doorway. He was literally over the top of the curb and his head was over the side. And then all of a sudden, I just saw a pool of sick coming out and Alan had gone completely blue and he had literally all the sick in his mouth. So I literally banged down on his back and he sort of all the vomit come out and he was just bringing it all out and blah, blah, blah. I was just sitting there rubbing his back. You know, everybody was completely oblivious until the ambulance turned up. I'd asked a couple of girls because it's a main road to watch the boys, and Elijah's absolutely brilliant. But when the paramedics come, I was talking to them basically about the fact that I'm absolutely disgusted with the way, because Alan has CPD. He's been on the streets all his life. He's a foster care kid, of course. I look after all the ex-foster care kids that just, they're never ever. Some people are so fearful of the system, they wouldn't even go into a hotel in the winter. It disgusts me with Alan because there's a picture of Alan in our hub over here, right, that was done by an artist here. And there's all the people that live in this block, all their portraits are all painted and put up in the room over there, right? Now, funny enough, we had a visitor here in Portsmouth, and I only noticed it on my crack book because I still follow all the coaches from my old world at Success Resources and Robbins and all of that, and Dan Bradbury and all that sort of network. Andy Harrington, and then that guy, what's his name, Topher Morrison, that ended up running for mayor for Florida, I think it was, on Miami. So pretty much most of the new people under Trump are all ex, like, that world. So so basically, I said to the paramedics that even though Alan won't go in, why is there not a system in place where the GPs are actually coming out onto the streets and, you know, making sure that somebody like Alan is still getting all the correct medical care that he needs, that he can come in, can get his bits done, and, you know, and also with this artist, back to this couple that came here, they were from Dan Bradbury World, so their son Nick used to probably share. You probably see me share Nick's stuff out, because Nick basically builds platforms for like some of the big sort of coaches and speakers, ex sort of footballers, things like that. So his parents had come down here and had a portrait done, and I noticed that they'd paid 10 grand for it, and I thought, well, why the fuck can't they like sell Alan's portrait and him have this little boat and little shed down by the docks? It would be perfect for him, and he would live like that. And it, you know, and it just annoys me because we live in such a world, and I want to bring it back to this, back to why I started what. So for those that don't know, I was in, I did a press release for a business thing called Challenge Britain back in 2010. I didn't release the press release until I'd finished what was called a 26-week business steps to business, which was done through the job centre. So basically at the time, I have what's called a disabled badge. So this is from Lancashire County Council. It is definitely 100% me. It's even got my little graduation picture on at the back. There's my name on it. So basically, this little fucking thing started a mass problem in my life, because my kids used to turn it upside down in my window like that, and I used to get parking tickets, right? So another thing is, as well, is this expired in on 28th of May 2012, and I'd said I don't want another disabled badge. This was on my birthday. I said I want a green one with a big E on it that says enabled. And I basically started arguing with the system and going and speaking to my local MPs and my councillors and stuff about this whole disabled to enabled. And I didn't want to do Challenge Britain. I didn't want to do Step Up Britain. Didn't want to do these things. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. It's just that there was a problem. And I spoke to the paramedics about this with Alan today, because obviously I stayed to see what was going to happen with Alan's bike, because obviously then he's going to go up to the hospital. Would he need to get brought back? How was he going to get back? Blah, 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 blah. Would they check his feet? Because obviously they don't realise he's got big boots on, socks. There's a lot of problems with his feet. There always is with homeless people. And of course, he didn't want to lose all his fishing equipment, and I didn't want him to lose it all either. So I was talking to people about where it could go and things like that in the meantime. So I basically said, look, if it was me going into the ambulance now, what would happen with my children? So I said, how do we build a system? I said, so basically I'm looking at where I can build foundations and put trust funds in and basically speak about how much money is needed and blah, blah, blah. So one is, I personally need an upright MRI. I need to basically price up. Just got to check because my boys are a bit hot. We've had such a lovely day though. We ended up in pretty much in the sea all day. We've been with all sorts of people today. It's been lovely. They've been fishing as well. So we are an EDS family. The boys are 100% EDS. It's unquestionable. So is Aaron and Faith. So is Liam and Daniel. All my children have a 50-50 chance. Now, the problem with this system is people like me. So when I was getting taken into A&E, if I had a piece of paper that says I have EDS on it, but it had 2012 on it, they wouldn't accept it. So the problem with the system is you have to keep reproducing your paperwork and evidence every so often. And when you have a chronic condition, that's so difficult. And I did a live not long ago about why multi-agency framework will never work, because you've got to integrate people into their communities. I might smash a cup. Sorry, I'm moving. There you go. So I'm moving my feet on my cup is in the way. Why multi-agency frameworks will never work, and the reason is because one, most people's conditions are hidden. Most people's suffering is personal. It takes so much for somebody in the dark, somebody who is going through something that in their life it's normal. Some people to live in a castle is normal. Some people to live in a caravan is normal. Everybody's life is different. To some children, to get a dick up the arse or to be fucked by their father or sold by their mother or abused by their PE teacher or molested by their best friend's dad or groped by their grandfather or born to be sold. Children are born to be sold. Did you know this? There's a whole movement of babies that come into this world. And the saddest thing is some of these women are just as victimized as the babies because they're held in dark places, they're held in homes, they're held in secret isolated zones, they're held in captivity, some right in front of your faces under green district lights, red light districts, some in brothels, some in opened, shopped with doors that you walk through that sell licensed things. And just because there is a law that says that you can sell anything that stimulates your organs if it's in healing process means that masturbation and oral and jumping up and down to stimulate somebody's anatomy is okay. And we have these brothels and we have these hidden places that exist where it's not just about the over 18s. Even my live tonight, I've had to say, is not appropriate for under 18s. It's not child friendly because I'm talking about children being trafficked. I'm talking about a live baby that is coming into the world, that is being taken off of the breast of a loving mother and a father for forced adoption. Why do we live in a system and a state that is so designed and so fragmented that creates gaps within its systems that prevents people from rising and creates falls that Humpty Dumpty isn't picking us back up again? And we have to open the doors. We have to ask why. We have to sit back now and say, what is this top, middle and bottom? Why have we got David Cameron, not David Cameron? He's gone. Theresa May has passed, and on we go again with Boris Johnson, who's just having a laugh, So comb your hair, sort your shit out, and realise that he's just there for the common people, because then we've got the Houses of Lords. Just to say, I'm here on YouTube for the first time, so I don't know the people that are over here. I don't know what gates this is going to open. I've got the chats. I actually find this so much easier than Crackbook now because it's changed over and it's just a nightmare. And I think I get the signal. I'm sitting in the dark because it is actually coming into 20 to 12 here in the UK on the 15th of August 2020, and many people are in the darkness. And if I was a captain of this ship of Great Britain right now, then I would have to look at my slowest person and my fastest, and I would have to look at how to bridge the gap between the inequalities and the needs and where that person is. And it comes with our mindset, it comes with our physical bodies, it comes with our physiology, it comes with our belief systems. There's a war going on, and the only way you're going to win is by the power of the words. Words have power. Words have influence. Words create matter. Words create things, thoughts, and actions. When someone tells you to put a mask on, did you ask Can I see the image of the disease? Can we actually physically see this? Can we ask yourself this? Why are they not talking about your immunity? Why are they not telling you to go vegan for this time? Why are they not asking you to look at your actual health? Why are they not asking you to, okay, I'm a mother. Yeah. My children fall over all the time. At what point do you put a plaster on? So if your child scrapes your knees, you have to make a decision. Is it bleeding? Okay, yes, it's bleeding. So we wipe the blood. As the blood stopped. So does the plaster go on because you're protecting an infection from getting in from airborne actions, or because you need to put something on the back of that plaster to draw out what might be in it, gravel? It's about an infection, isn't it? It's about whether or not that infection is going to create gangrene, or whether or not you can prevent it by just a little bit of wiping over some antiseptic, putting on a little bit of cream, putting on a plaster. But what happens if that plaster stays on too long? What happens if you never give it time to breathe? My children today have been in and out to sea. In fact, I was a responsible mother, and I did take a towel, and I did take swimming stuff, and I did take a spare change of clothes. But we have a long length, and we ended up in a couple of different situations where the children ended up back in the water. So both my children walked back quite late at night. We didn't even get in until sort of like 9:30. But both, like Shiloh, Elijah decided to walk back with no shoes on, and Shiloh, bless his cotton socks, fell asleep in the buggy, both, in dripping clothes, but they were in their like surfy clothes. So I live in a seaside town. It would be completely normal to see people walking around in Cornwall with surfboards in flip-flops. It's not quite like this. It's a stiff, middle-class, upper town, white supremacy place that is now multicultural. We've got people currently right now trying to get in and out of countries very quickly because each country, each city, each county is dealing with lockdown to their own merit, under their own rules, their own regulations, their own thinking, their own understanding of what's going on. Most people are responding in fear, hence why we're doing social distancing. Stay away, keep away from me, get your lurgy away from me. Go away. People wouldn't even intervene on Alan today. Even the paramedics were masked with gloves on, stepping back, not quite sure. They left it to me in the end. And even my kids are helping Alan. That's a 4 and a 2-year-old that are still, Alan, you all right? Come on, Alan, wake up. So we live in a society that everybody is motivated by their pay scale, their payday, it's not above my pay scale. Everything has been pay scale this, pay scale that. Even when the police came to my door here to threaten to shoot me, well, they didn't threaten to shoot me. They basically told me that if I did, I would be shot. So that's a threat to shoot. I'm sure that's a threat to shoot. So anyway, they said it was above their pay scale. So I said, well, it's about orders, isn't it? So at the end of the day, we have a moral duty. We have a moral compass to... Okay, so if I said to you, Simon says, jump off a cliff, and you say, well, no, and I say, well, I've got an order from the judge that tells you you've got to jump off a cliff. Well, all of a sudden, you've got to jump off a cliff. But if I said to you that if you don't jump off a cliff, I have an order from the judge that's going to detain and arrest you and put you in jail for 2 years, you might want to jump off the cliff. But is it just going to be a really cool cliff jump and probably the most exciting, thrilling moment of your life, and somebody's just pushing you to overcome fears and boundaries? Or are you going to propel to your fucking death? But if you don't jump, you're going to go to jail. Okay, arrest me, I'm not jumping, and put me in jail then. But then you're stuck in jail for a year. Well, then come out and they're going to tell you, jump again. So we'll put me back in jail again then. And then you end up with a situation like He's changed his name now. He's changed his name to Salvador something now, but Charlie Bronson. Because once in, it's a case of someone's opinion, someone's perspective, someone's observation, and their paperwork to then go back to the judge to make a perception on whether or not you're considered somebody who should be in society. So we detain people, we section people. Whenever I've gone for a psychological assessment for social services, you know, I'm always greeted by this big, dingy, dark, castle-formed institution, very scary, greeted by big keys with spray and mace that basically says that they can physically assault me and detain me at any point that they like. Oh God, I mean, take me back to when I was, I'd been taken into A&E, and it actually is a Chiari malformation. This is what I'm trying to have the upright MRI for. There is physical evidence that shows that laying down MRIs, it doesn't show. I need an MRI upright. So he kept sending me to mental health. I was detained and suggested that I should stay in at one particular point. And they classed it as they'd said because of everything I'd been through, sexual abuse and all trauma, my body would finally collapse. And they classed it as a conversion disorder, which was actually an incorrect diagnosis. But when I was in this place, I was in the Ridgewood in Frimley. I had a lady walking around. Have you got a sickie? Have you got a sickie for me? She was really old and she used to just walk around like that, like a ghost. Lots of different problems and stuff in like that. But it was this constant intimidation. Take your pills. You have to take your pills. Take your tongue out. You can't be sick. You'll be followed around. If you don't take your pills, you're going into this white room. You'd be intimidated by being shown these rooms. If I was in a relationship with somebody who was going, like take Dean, for example. Dean has to deal with somebody who's got complex trauma. For those that don't know, I have complex trauma. If I was to be diagnosed by a psychotherapist, they would say I have complex trauma. Why would I have complex trauma? I'd have complex trauma because, you know, I literally backed down a wall and screamed because I knew I was never going to see my children again. And being a mother, and for any person who's ever lost a child in a shop or something like that for that fleeting moment, knows the panic that you feel. I live with that 24/7, 7 days a week, and I have to manage it. It's not about it doesn't go away. My grief doesn't go away. My tears just submerge deeper within the back of my eyes, and my lump in my throat just is something that I know how to choke it. And the pit in my stomach, I've learned to sort of live with that nauseating. I think the thing that has been the hardest for me to deal with is the merging bubbles and anger. I mean, when I first got sort of pulled in by my friend Jason, who helped me create Walk for Justice, and bless his cotton socks, he sort of gave his home up for me, and in the end gave his job up to help us. And I'd literally had my kids gone. I'd been given these orders. As for those that don't know, then please go on my YouTube channel and just put Kelly Cotton EU in and watch the video of me. And my friend Monique was videoing me reading out the judgment that I had just been told that my children were going to be forced adopted. And it's like, what? I was sitting in a cafe. I'd just been battered through the court system for 26 weeks, going in once a month, and every other time I went in was just to gag me because there was previous media, because you can't tell anybody, you can't speak to anybody, you can't even speak to your mother if she's not parties to proceedings. It's all classed as contempt of court. To even speak to the judge while you're sitting in the same room and say, Your Honour, that information is incorrect. If it's not spoken within the line of channels between the solicitor to the barrister to the judge at the right time, presented in the right format, it's contempt. There's such a structure that exists. I mean, please remember, we're dealing with laws back to the point that they still wear wigs on their heads to protect themselves from head lice from the mere mortal peasants. We're dealing with Robin Hood and John Tucker. And today I've been at the castle. Today I've been talking to the boys about Henry VIII. You know, I talk to everybody about Henry VIII and the C of E church that we live under. That so Henry VIII could get officially divorced from his wife, and now all of a sudden we live under broken values. It's a broken value. That wasn't the right way. Marriage is the way, the truth, the light, and the way. Whatever you want to say, we cannot be alone individuals by ourselves. That just defies all all things. Of course it does. The penis enters the vagina and creates a baby, and men need to stick around and take responsibility than going and sticking their penis in another vagina and creating another family because Henry VIII said that's okay. Well, it's not. And then we wonder why we've got this system that's having to pick up the pieces of families that are incompetent, families that don't have the skills. So therefore we come back to the education system. Do we want to fall back into a space where I live in a place where people still can't read? Why can they not read? Because they were told they were dyslexic at a time when we didn't have the enabling channels to remind people that we're all just different. Psychology comes in with a little probe and he wants to find all the veils on a tree. And, you know, at the end of the day, the oak tree is still the oak tree. It doesn't matter whether it's got branches. You know, we're all still human beings, not doings. We're all still spiritual beings. You are a spiritual being, whether you understand this or not. Go back to the film The Cocoon, when they take back their skin and they're a big radiant light and everybody thinks they're aliens. They're not aliens. You're spiritual beings. You are the light. You are the illuminated one. You know, you are the everything, the be all and the truth. You are connected to me as I am connected to you, whether you like it or not. What you don't like in me is probably something you see in yourself, or what you do like is something you're trying to cherish within yourself. I'm a mirror, a reflection of your own mind for you to work out where your belief systems come from. Let's do it right here, right now. Just think of something that you believe about your story to the world around you. Take one little thing. You have to go to school. Okay, really? You have to go to school, do you? Okay, that's your belief system. So you have to send your child to school, do you? So you have to get up at 7:30 in the morning to drop your children off at the gates for 10 to 9. You have to do this, do you? You have to. You have to. Why? Why do you have to do that? Who says that you have to get up at 6:30 to make it even easier, 7:30, 8:30? Who says that you have to, as a mother and a father, drag your children up from bed you probably don't even want to go and throw them in a classroom with 36 other students, to be taught from a book from a student that has only just gone through university and maybe had a bit of a gap year, who probably doesn't even know what Equifax Experian is because mummy and daddy still pay the bills? So why do you have to do it? I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that you should. I'm just saying, why do you believe this? Take any belief. Any. Take, why do you live on benefits? Is it because it's the only option that you know on how to get money to go down to the job centre and sign on? Or is it because you've come into that situation? Why did you get a job? Why did you go and work for the particular employer? Is it because on option days you were asked what did you want to be when you grew up and you didn't quite become that, so you had to just get a job just over broke? Like, who defines your rules for your life? If it's your life, Steve Jobs' greatest quote ever, not to live in the dogma of others. Greatest quote ever. I can't remember the exact quote, but basically that's what he said, you know, not to live in the dogma of others. What is dogma? Dogma is the thinking of others that you believe exists within you. We're in the greatest wake up ever. COVID has been the blessing in disguise. COVID has been the best thing that could have ever happened to this universe and world right now. Bad things are coming. Bad things are here. There's 2 world orders. In fact, there's probably even more, because take, for example, Great Britain. Look at all the different political parties that we've got. They still exist even if one's in power. Where does the power come from? The power comes from the people that vote them in or don't vote them in. The people give the power to these people to be able to sit there. So I was stood outside Stephen Morgan's office today, just having a bit of a view, getting a bit of his energy. And it's just a little room. He's basically just rented a little room to put his nice little name up there. He's got a little volunteer as his little secretary. He's got somebody that he just pays minimum wage. He has to do most of it. Well, actually, he's a bit of a suited and booted boy and a bit of a business boy now. So I think he's got a little bit more money to put into his little adventure. I'd love to move into a lighter place to talk to you right now, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stay in the dark. Is that where you all want to stay? In the dark? In fear? False evidence appears real. What is fear? Fear is nothing more than an illusion of something that hasn't happened yet, that you've created, some form of anxiety and stress within yourself that maybe if you just did this might happen possibly in the future, maybe. So you're not going to try anyway because it might not work out. Or this could happen, or that could happen. I could cross the road and get hit by a bus, but I can't live in worry and a fear of a bus. I could drive my car and crash it, but I can't live in fear that if I turn the keys that this could be the time, because I'd never get into a car. I could never fly again because I'm too scared. And this is something that I have to deal with. I'm too scared of getting caught in customs with my children and having my children detained. That's a fear that I've got to overcome. I'm fearful of going to A&E. But if my discs is going in an ambulance and off to A&E the right way when there's another way, but I have to pay somebody to give a shit. So for somebody to sort my body out, I have to pay somebody. So where is that deep understanding and personal relationships coming from? We've been divided. We have been conquered. We have been created as individual islands. We are but a birth certificate. We are but a national insurance number. We are but our JR 30 44 18C. I am not a number. I am not a man. I am a woman, mother of children. I'm not a provider. I'm not a protector. But I have to be, because the world that we're entering into now wants to change and mold our children, to computerize them, to put chips in their minds, to violence, to penetrate their thinking in a way that I just don't want to allow my children to go through. And I hope you don't want this for yours too. We've got a family event going on this weekend coming up. I've had a great conversation with security today because they've he's helped me sideline everything. My community is starting to get behind me with the fact that I am so troubled and so complex and so incongruency right now, because I just hope that there is somebody out there right now that knows that my hands are tied because of my 2 boys here with me, and because I need Portsmouth to work with me on it, but somebody else is going to have to bring this. But any form of aggression is going to force the judge to move the child away from the mother, and the mother can't be associated with any of this. I can't be associated with any of this. But how do you tell somebody that if you do this, this is the consequence of your action? How does a mere mortal, spiritual being, mortal like me, tell a judge, social workers, and all these people that you cannot tell this mother that she cannot be a mother, and you are keeping her child away from her for the rest of her days and the rest of her lives? How can I tell these people that you cannot play with the emotions of this mother who's going to be tormented absolutely day in, day out, every birthday for years and years and years, tormented, every school holiday tormented, every time she sees a baby tormented, every morning that she wakes up and she's not making bottles, doing particular acts every year that she's monitoring what's going on within her daughter's life, maybe getting a letter, breaking down, crying, having to break through, getting through Christmases, getting through holidays, maybe one day in the future trying to move on and have another child and a family if she hasn't taken her life and killed herself in this time. Battling suicide every day, battling anger every day, battling sadness every day, battling depression every day, battling not wanting to kill the people that have done this every day. Planning it, thinking about it, knowing it's not within your heart, but you still battle. No shrink would say I was wrong. I told them straight when I came here with the boys, come through my door, I'll shoot you. Go out with a bullet to your head. They said, I think she means it. I said, I don't know, never been put into that situation. But if you do this to me again, you terminated the state, terminated my first pregnancy when I was 15, forced, manipulated, controlled. Took my first child away from me, forced the father to do so as I was taken into hospital. I was a mother with a medical condition. Played games with me with my second child, but the father was strong enough and pretty much told him to fuck off. Came at me again. Took Aaron and Faith, forced adopted. Social had been at me 4 times over me moving things from my storage unit. Playing games, and I've watched Portsmouth Council remove yet more children. And then I have an interesting conversation with a fisherman tonight who has had his children taken and returned, and now his brother's had his children taken. But it's done in silence, in the darkness, behind closed doors, where people cry alone, sobbing silently. Fragmented families, people turning on each other, so child protection, creating people the illusion that they are child abusers. Since baby P, it's been going wrong, worse and worse and worse. Nobody wants to leave a baby at home that may be going through something horrendous, where neighbours don't call the police. How do we protect children? How do we protect children when potentially their family are their worst enemy? But how do people heal if they can't come back to the person who hurt them in the first place? How do we as individuals give a shit about other people that are going through something that we could never imagine? Or maybe we have because we have an understanding, maybe not to the level of what somebody else may be going through. Maybe it was worse than somebody's experience, but better than somebody else's. Maybe somebody's experience was horrendous in comparison to somebody else's, but it doesn't matter. One person injured to that level as a child, even as an adult, but a child, a baby. Babies' pelvises cannot take a penis inside them. When I first got into all this stuff with the Congo, learning about 3-year-olds that were surviving, babies that were surviving rape, and I was understanding that this was to do with the culture that believed that, innocence would heal you from AIDS and things. So anyway, the reason that I'm sitting in the dark and coming onto my live here, I've had a wonderful, beautiful day in a beautiful world. Not many people. It's been raining, but it's been lovely. We've had a wonderful day. Our interactions have been inspiring, educating, informative, and really good for the boys. But a man nearly died today because most people would have just left him there laying, not realising that he had CPD, a hidden condition, and he couldn't get the vomit out of the back of his throat. If I hadn't have banged his back at that time, I would have been hearing of Alan's death. Another lady come and rang the ambulance. I didn't have my phone. Luckily, I actually know a lot of Alan's details and could get some bits from him once he had been sick. I'm going to set up a Patreon. I'm going to set up all these things to bring in all forms of cash and levels now, because I need shitloads of money, because I want to build a not safeguarding, but for people with complex conditions that are life conditions, that the power of the universe, the power of the prayer, it's just about management. And it's about having the right people around you that know what you're going through and still fulfilling your purpose and doing what you love, but just having people around you can talk to and just sort of say, I've got so much anxiety going on right now, or I don't feel like I can do this. We've all had people around us who say, no, it doesn't matter, you don't need to do it. Oh, you can't do that. We need people around us who understand that sometimes that step might feel too big, or that leap might be too grand. And sometimes we just need somebody to hold our hand and say, it's okay, we can do this. That's what parents should be saying to their kids when they're scared. It's okay, you can do this, I'm here. And they're the supporting systems. They're the people with disabilities, because disability is about disabling. Yes, there's a handicap like in golf, but even Stephen Hawkins was the most inspiring man, despite what you think of his philosophies that probably will never truly ever come to fruition. But we can only publish what they let us. So it's about self-publishing. It's about self-reliance. It's about self-governing. It's not about being an anarchist. It's not about kicking off. It's not about defying. It's not about not respecting authority. It's about building communities around you that enable you to thrive. You can still have education with other children and learning, just maybe do it in a different way. On Tuesday, we're going down to the Sea World, and we're going for chips and stuff. I've been talking to Dean, who owns the chip place, today on how much it would cost me to just start meeting people down there and having some chips and things. And, if I'm going to stay here in Portsmouth, then Portsmouth's got to step up. It's got to create a whole new standard, because you can't isolate people in their homes. You can't dumb people down. You can't make people believe that they are not worthy. You can't make people come into this illusion that they are nothing more than an hourly wage or a product for time and service. We are not slaves. I am not a slave. My children are not slaves. They were not born to a system. We were all born children of God, of good. How we react to things and how we walk in grace. Could I be a murderer? Could I kill the people who have done me injustice? I probably could. Am I capable of it? Probably. The anger would have to be so driven. If I ever saw these people, could I contain that? But I would then have to prepare to have that weapon, because someone like me with my physical body couldn't physically actually assault someone. I'd bust myself. I know this to be true. So then you have to ask yourself, why did the UK allow for Donald Trump to have weapons in Great Britain when we are not a country that stands with guns, apart from the people in Downing Street and our special force? So how do we protect somebody in a situation when people can come through the door with guns to take your children, and you can't tell anybody and nobody knows, and you've got to deal with that pain and that grief and them cries and them screams alone? Where an 18-year-old girl was held by 5 police to take her baby off of her. How do we have a moral compass? How do we start to care about other people and the experiences that they're going through, rather than it just being drama and inconvenience? Fucking hell, are they whinging again, whining? We shouldn't have to go to therapists. We shouldn't have to go to strengths. We shouldn't be told we have borderline personality, narcissistic disorders, and all of these branches of the trees. We've been through shit. It was a bad experience. It hurt us, and it's okay to cry. But people shouldn't be trapped, held by guns, held by manipulation and control, mind control. Told they're something they're not. So please, if you're in the dark, if feel lost and alone. And please join me on this channel, and I hope I can break down all of these branches to remind you that you are not your labels. You are not the diagnoses that they have given you. You are not a victim. We can't change people, things, events, or circumstances. We can only change what they mean to us. But if you point a finger at me, you point 3 back at yourself. We're not here to judge. That's not our journey. But right now, we have to send a message, and a hard one, that says we've taken our power back. We've taken back our hearts, minds, and souls, and reminded ourselves that we are absolutely wonderful, amazing, beautiful. We were created in the image of the Lord. We were created to be a perfect version of ourselves, not a carbon copy of someone else, to be you, to be who the Lord created you to be, not to watch somebody in awe, to be like them, but to be you. Hollywood is over. The industries that have been manipulating you, the medias, are over. Turn your tellies off, turn the news off, and tune in to yourself. So, I hope you have an absolute amazing new week. And please remember, spread joy, spread love, be nice, be kind, and don't be a cunt. And if you can't help someone, just don't hinder them. But ignorance and silence is going to be the greatest tragedy. And it's time for a voice for the voiceless. It's okay to speak out. It's okay to tell your story. Because when you do, you empower somebody to open up their own secrets and darkness, and maybe talk to somebody else about what's happened to them. And it's only in that truth where you find your freedom. You are not with what has happened to you or what you have been through. In fact, it might even make you a strong guys. I'll see you as the week goes. I will no longer be live. It's just telling me that I have an unstable internet. So hopefully I will no longer be going over on Crackbook anymore. I'm going to be over here on YouTube. I'm going to start doing different channels. One of them is going to be for complex trauma coaching and training, and talking about complex trauma, what's going on inside somebody internally that they can't necessarily talk to you about, how anxiety and paranoia and delusions set in, and how we can manage and control fear when fear and faith collides, and how to overcome that. And I'm also going to be doing things with my children, as I'm a coach. I'm going to be running my children's channels within their own things. And I've got quite a lot going on as well. So I'm going to be trying to make all this professional. I'm going to learn how to use it, put up some videos, put some bits in, and hopefully help you all understand the traps that have been put for you to stop you from being you, and how to get out of your own way. And that means that I can do what I'm here to do, which is me getting out of my own way. So I'm in true alignment of what I'm here to do, which is to help you understand who you are and undo your belief systems and find your true you. So, and in that, I will see you on the other side. So you may see me dancing, you may see my out, you may see lots of different sides of me. It doesn't mean I have multiple personalities. It just means that there are many, 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 many parts of me. And it's just about who you want to spend time with to share who you are and who you really want to get to know. So I hope to get to know many of you soon. I will take time to read in channels and things. I will get more in time with a schedule and when I'm going to be here live when I'm going to have recordings and videos done. But for this particular thing right now, I wanted to be able to bring everybody who is feeling that maybe they're in a bit of a dark place right now. Maybe they're feeling a bit alone. I can't connect to people in an individual way right now because I'm dealing with many things in my own life, but I can create events and that keep you all going. And I'll see you either on the front line, or I'll see you pushing from behind, or maybe you'll see me in between. And hopefully we will all just, I don't know, put the great back in Britain. And not just Great Britain, but we've got to connect with the rest of the world. And yeah, don't fear other cultures. You'll learn a lot. I'm going to go to bed. Have an absolute wonderful sleep. In whatever country you're in, wherever you are in the world, this platform is going to open up to many different things. So I'm going to have to get my titles right. But this is genuine. Nobody needs to be left in the dark alone. Nobody needs to be battling suicide. It's okay to say you're not okay. And we need to build a network of people, a network of angels that can be there for people at that time to just keep them going. Because it's not easy for people at a time of such social anxiety and stress and not to be around people. So start back within yourself. The only way out of this is to go inside yourself. And once you come inside yourself and set your own boundaries, and then you can deal with the rest of the world. So I shall see you on this channel. Bear with me as I get back into my own speed and touch. I'm coming through my own healing, and it's been a long time. So I've given 10 years of my life to this, longer in the preparation. And let's hope that this net that we hope is there for you all is going to be there for October. Catch you soon. Hey, do something for somebody that's going to help them do something that they couldn't have done on their own.